The smoke was a thick, choking veil, staining the lavender sky of the imperial city a sickly gray. From the viewport of his grounded cargo hauler, the human watched the chaos unfold. The district below, a warren of elegant, spire-like structures favored by the artisan caste of the Galatian Empire, was burning. A power conduit overload, the emergency bands chattered, threatening a whole wing of the cultural archive. He was a simple man, a trader of terrestrial curiosities. He had no business intervening. The Galatian Imperial Guard, tall and elegant in their silvery armor, were already forming containment perimeters, their focus on the priceless artifacts within. But his eyes, sharper than most under the strange sun, caught a flicker of movement on a high balcony, a silhouette against the orange hell of the windows. A small figure, trapped. His mind held no grand calculations. There was a person, and there was fire. The equation was ancient and simple. He grabbed the compact emergency kit from his ship's locker, a humble thing of heat-resistant fabric and basic medical supplies, and ran. The guards at the perimeter shrilled in alarm, their melodic language sharp with command. He ignored them, ducking under a shimmering barrier as they were distracted by a secondary explosion. The heat hit him like a physical wall. The air tasted of ozone and melted composites. Using a decorative lattice, he began to climb. His people had come from trees and savannas. The climb, though perilous with falling debris, was a forgotten song in his muscles. He reached the balcony. The figure was a Galatian child, her large, luminous silver eyes wide with terror, her delicate, pearl-like skin smudged with soot. The intricate frills along her neck and temples, signifiers of some noble lineage, were wilted from the heat. She was coughing, curled against the railing as the fire licked out from the shattered doorway behind her. "Easy," he said, his voice a rough, gentle sound compared to the Galatian's fluid tones. He didn't know if she understood. He unfurled the heat blanket and wrapped it around her small form. The main door was impassable, a wall of flame. The only way was down. He secured her to his chest with the blanket straps, her slight weight barely a burden. "Hold on," he murmured. He tested the latticework. It groaned but held. The descent was worse than the ascent, his hands sweating, the metal growing hot. A section gave way, and he swung violently, one-handed, his grip on the child absolute. He landed hard on a lower balcony, his ankle protesting with a sharp pain. But he rolled to cushion her from there. It was a staggered run through less affected corridors, following the distant glow of exit lights. He burst out of a service entrance into a square, now filled with emergency vehicles and a crowd of onlookers. Medics rushed forward, their long-fingered hands plucking the girl from his arms with practiced care. He sank onto a low wall, coughing soot from his lungs, his clothes singed, his hands raw. He did not see the ornate skimmer that descended silently, nor the phalanx of Imperial guards that parted the crowd with quiet authority. He only looked up when a shadow fell over him. A Galatian woman stood there, but unlike any he had seen. Her robes were not merely silks, but seemed woven from twilight, constellations glimmering subtly within the fabric. The frills at her neck were not simple frills, but elaborate, crystalline structures that chimed softly with her every breath. Her presence did not command attention. It simply rewrote the atmosphere of the square, drawing all light and sound toward her. She was looking at him, her silver eyes holding depths that made the starfield on her robes seem shallow. Then she turned to the child, now being treated by a royal physician. A quiet, musical exchange passed between them. The child pointed a slender finger at the human. The royal woman turned back to him. The crowd had fallen into a silence, so profound the crackle of the distant fire could be heard. Her voice, when she spoke, was translated by a small device on her wrist. It was a voice of cold water over ancient stones, of solar winds through crystal canyons. You entered the forbidden zone. You scaled the sacred artisan spire. You touched a sign of the royal line. Each statement was an immutable fact. The human simply nodded, too tired for diplomacy. He expected condemnation, perhaps arrest. The queen, for it could be no other, tilted her head. You did this to save her. Yes, he croaked. You owe her no blood debt. You share no covenant. Your species has only the most fleeting of treaties with ours. Why? He thought of the equation. Person. Fire. It was not a Galatian thought. It was simpler. It was the thing to do. The queen studied him for a long moment, her gaze moving over his soot-stained face, his damaged hands, his humble clothes. Something shifted in her impenetrable eyes. She turned to the highest-ranking guard, her voice ringing clear and absolute in the silent square. "Prepare the wedding," she declared. The humans stared, certain the translation had failed. The Galatian crowd erupted not in cheers, but in a harmonic wave of sound shock, awe, tradition unfolding. The guard captain bowed so low his forehead touched the ground. "Your Majesty." To him? The captain dared to whisper. "He has placed his hands upon a princess of the blood," the queen stated, her tone leaving no room for argument. "By the oldest law, the law of preservation, he has claimed a guardianship that can only be sanctified by the highest bond. His courage is a brute fact. His instinct, an undeniable force. Our line could use such. Concrete pragmatism. Prepare the wedding." It was not a request. It was a seismic event. The human was taken not to a cell, but to the royal suites. His protests were met with polite, utterly unyielding confusion. To refuse was unthinkable, an insult to cosmic order. He had acted, and now the universe, through the queen's decree, was reacting. He learned the child was the queen's youngest niece, orphaned, and now under the queen's direct protection. His act had been more than brave. It had been legally and culturally catalytic. The law of preservation was an ancient edict from a time when Galatian clans were few and every life was precious. A life saved at great personal risk created a bond that mere gratitude could not dissolve. It demanded integration. The wedding was not a romantic union, but a political and biological amalgamation. He was to become a royal consort, a permanent fixture, his human resilience woven into the royal gene pool. The Galatians saw it as the highest honor. He saw it as a beautifully gilded cage. He was given tutors. He learned that Galatian society was a complex, harmonious melody, but one that could not tolerate dissonance. His simple, direct way of speaking was seen as refreshingly authentic, yet dangerously blunt. His need for physical exercise was puzzling. His preference for simple food over their refined energy pastes was a mild scandal. He met his betrothed, the princess, only once before the ceremony. She was shy, still healing, but she gifted him a small, polished stone, a symbol of steadfastness in her culture. "You are the steady rock," her translator whispered. He felt a crushing weight of responsibility, and a profound loneliness the day of the ceremony arrived. The grand atrium was a living garden of light and sound. Thousands of Galatians gathered, their natural frills emitting soft, harmonious tones. He stood at the center, clad in heavy robes that felt like chainmail, drowning in ritual. He was a specimen, a curiosity, a solution to a cultural equation. The queen presided, a statue of perfect authority. As the final chords of the unification hymn began, her eyes met his. In that instant, he saw not just the ruler, but the strategist. She was not just honoring a law. She was importing a catalyst. She saw the coming storm's political strife, a stagnant gene pool, external threats, and she was introducing an unpredictable element. The efficient asked the ritual question, expecting the ritual answer. The entire empire waited for his echo. He looked at the child princess, who gave a small, hopeful smile. He looked at the crowd, a sea of alien expectation. He thought of his ship, grounded and dusty. He thought of the fire and the simple choice that had brought him here. He did not give the ritual answer. Instead, he used the phrase his language tutor had taught him, the one for moments of utmost personal truth. His voice, awkward with the alien syllables, cut through the harmony. "I will stand," he said. It was not the vow of eternal fusion. It was a vow of presence, of guardianship on his own terms. A ripple of shock went through the atrium. The efficient froze, looking to the queen. The queen's crystalline frills did not chime. She was utterly still. Then, slowly, the barest hint of something that might have been respect touched her eyes. She had wanted a force. She had gotten one. He had not accepted his role. He had defined it. She gave a single, slow nod. The ceremony proceeded, but the meaning had shifted. The melody had changed, forever. He did not become a Galatean. He became their human, the rock upon which new traditions would either break or be built. The guardian who had pulled a child from a fire and, in doing so, had ignited a quiet, slow-burning revolution in the heart of an ancient, star-spanning empire. The wedding was not an end. It was the first, bewildering sentence of a very long and unpredictable story.